Well, whenever you throw a scientific argument against us, do you think we're just sitting back and doing nothing about it? We get into the books too, man. There are thousands of LDS scientists, archaeologists, historians, scholars, linguists, apologists. We're all studying also. So my serious suggestion is you don't pick up your information from the anti-Mormon silliness out there. Do your homework. You know, we are accused of being brainwashed, brain dead, follow in lock, stock, non-stop, no thinking procession. That's all I see you critics doing. You're guilty of what you're accusing us of doing. No, Salt Lake City hasn't told me to read this. On my own volition, I'm reading this because it has to do with DNA science in the Book of Mormon. I'm finding out for myself. I seriously suggest you begin to do the same thing. If my videos do nothing else than convince anyone who watches them, do not take my word for this stuff. Get these books that I'm sharing with you, then I will count them as success. Do your own thinking. Do your own study. And quit coming to the stupid anti-Mormon conclusions that you keep coming to, because that's who you're reading. I can tell by the type of argument you're bringing out. Don't tell me you're not getting it from anti-Mormon stuff. I can tell the way you use your words. Scientists do not deal in the type of thinking that you anti-Mormons do. It's obvious. You know? I'm going to encourage you. Think it through. Study it. Okay, page 80. The Caucasoid type of person first emerged in Western Asia or in the Middle East rather than in Europe. When the story is finally written, the peopling of the Americas will turn out to be far more complicated than anyone has imagined. So the simplistic paradigm that everyone came from Asia is simply false. That is not what the anthropologists or the DNA scientists are saying at all. There have been a lot of people who came here, and many at many different times. So how do we reconcile the apparently overwhelming genetic evidence that over 99% of the Native Americans came from Siberia with the growing body of evidence suggesting transoceanic contacts from multiple sources? Where are the genetic footprints of such contacts? Although cultural contacts can occur with the movement of a very few people, consider Marco Polo for example, how many people must move into a place for their genetic footprints to be found? 1,000? 2,000? Or 20,000 years later? Could a single person bring samples of Shang writing from China to Central America without leaving a genetic footprint that could be found in population samples taken 3,000 years later? Probably. How about a group of 100? How many Chinese would it take landing on the west coast of Central America before traces of their passing could be picked up in the blood of 200 Central American Indians in 2002? They are not being facetious. You anti-Mormons, you think you have all the answers with this DNA issue? There's a couple of questions I'd like to see you answer, truly. The absence of evidence of such limited, restricted contact in the current Native American gene pool is not conclusive evidence that no such contact ever occurred. Now, if I had said that as a Mormon apologist, you people would be mocking me. So let me reiterate this. 2 genetic scientists, microbiologists, they know. I'm going to read this again. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. That's what they say. The fact that we see no genetic trace of contact where indeed none might reasonably be expected actually, between fewer than 50 people from the Middle East and extensive New World populations that numbered in the thousands of or the millions and had been established for tens of thousands of years, this is not evidence that no contact ever occurred. It is evidence that we haven't found it yet. That's all we can do. It's the same thing with archaeology, isn't it? Crawford says that most of the information that we have tested so far shows an Asiatic origin. However, he also says, this is page 81 of Stephens and Meldrum. Crawford also says, this evidence does not preclude the possibility of some small-scale cultural contacts between specific Amerindian societies and Asian or oceanic seafarers. This is the anthropology head of the department at the Smithsonian, you guys. Who else do you want me to quote to you? You guys obviously aren't reading this guy, because I've never seen you discuss this, the critics against this stuff. What's the holdup? Here's what else they say, page 85. Within a matter of a few generations, most unique genetic information from an individual is gone. Two scientists, you guys. This is not me desperately trying to come up with anything I can possibly find. I'm simply reading how the DNA scientists know what happens. DNA disappears within just a few generations of an individual. In a lot of cases. Not always, but the possibility is certainly there. Oh, this is interesting. They're discussing Trent Stephens' family. His genetic family line, one of the authors. They're describing his genetic family line that they have found using his DNA, as well as his genealogy line from the actual historical records and documents that they have found. It is utterly fascinating what they find. They say the mitochondrial DNA, this is on page 88. I wouldn't want to be accused of being sloppy over there on Shade's message board. You guys, you want to know? Backyard Professor, Meldrum and Jeffries, or Stephens, I mean, who are the children of Lehi, page 88. This is just for the Shade's message board people who think I'm so sloppy. Mitochondrial DNA and the Y chromosome DNA revealed just a tiny slice of the history of the Stephens family. Genealogically, they can trace themselves back to 700 A.D. through their Germanic, Swedish, and French generations. Genetically, they only can go back 5 generations. And you would miss the Germanic, the French, and the Swedish aspects of their family. So if you were to do a proof of history of one of these authors just genetically, you wouldn't hardly understand anything about him as you go back in time. But if you use the historical records, you could trace his genealogy all the way through Europe, all the way back hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years. That's the limitation of DNA for finding people. This is not to impugn the science of DNA or to denigrate it. It is to understand it. This is something a lot of people who are criticizing the Book of Mormon apparently are not doing. You don't show me or any of the rest of us who are studying these issues that you have studied the issues very well at all. You're coming to too fast and too hard of conclusions based on what it can and cannot do. This argument that DNA proves the Book of Mormon false, that argument itself is simply false.